Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to focus on tax and tip. This is a very important skill that you need to know in the real world when you are going to a grocery store or if you're going out to dinner. Um, for this particular unit, we're going to be showing you videos while you're taking notes. So when you come back to class, we could do some fun activities. If you have any questions, please remember to post them in the discussion post. And before you start your notes, make sure that you have filled out the tax and tip questionnaire. It's on a Google form in Schoology. So we're going to start off by how do you find the tax? Well, when you find the tax, you're going to find the decimal form of that percent, which you already know how to do. And then you're just going to multiply that decimal by your subtotal and round the amount to money, which is the hundredths place. And then we're going to add the tax to the subtotal to find the total. So just think about when you go to the grocery store, you go to 7-Eleven and you buy a big gulp. When you go to the register, you're going to get a total. And then, of course, they're going to add on the tax. So let's just suppose you go out to lunch. Example one, you have a hamburger, you have fries, and you have a soda. Those are all the prices. Now, a subtotal means that you're going to add all three numbers up, and you can use a calculator for this section, of course. So when we add the total, we're going to get a total of $4.97. So I'm going to write that here. Okay. Now that's called a subtotal because it's not the actual total yet. We're not done. Now the tax says that it is 9%. So basically what you're going to be doing is paying 9% of the subtotal. So we're going to add the 9%. But we're not going to add 9. That would not make sense. So what we have to do is we have to take 9%, and I'll just write it over here. 9%, and we want to change that to a decimal. And you all know that the decimal is at the end of 9, and if we want to change it to a decimal, we're going to move it 2 to the left. So now the decimal is a 0.09, which is 9 cents. So we are going to multiply that by 9 cents because we're taking 9% of, so what it is, it's 9%, which is a 0.09, 9% of $4.97. So what you're going to do is you're going to multiply 0.09 times $4.97. So if you do that on your calculator, you're going to get 45 cents, not 9 cents. So the tax is 45 cents. That's it. And then what you do is you're going to add your subtotal plus the tax, which was 45 cents, 9% of $4.97. You're going to add that together, and you're going to get a total of $5.42. Okay. Next example, example 2. So if you go to the store, you want to buy a pair of pants and you want to buy a shirt. All we're going to do, we're going to add those two items together to get a subtotal, which is $72.99. That is our subtotal. But now we have to add the tax. But before we add the tax is now 4.5%. So we have to change that to a decimal first. And as you know, we're going to move the decimal 2 to the left, which is 0.045. Now, we're going to take that percentage, which we changed to a decimal, and now we're going to multiply it. So basically 72.99, we're going to multiply that by a 0.045. So we want 4.5% of 72.99. So if you multiply this in your calculator, you are going to get a total of $3.28. Now, if you ever get a decimal that is to the thousandths place, you want to round it to the nearest hundredths because money has two numbers to the right of the decimal, the hundredths place. And then, of course, you add those two numbers together and you get $76.27. So hopefully all of that made sense to you. If you have any questions at all, please post those. All right, the next thing we're going to talk about is tip. You're basically going to do the same thing, and I'm anxious to see what you put on your questionnaire, what you thought was um, a good percent to leave at a restaurant. Typically it's 15%, but if you are at a very nice restaurant, you have great service, then you probably leave anywhere between 15 and 20%. Usually the nicer restaurants, you're going to leave 20%. Of course, we're going to change that to a decimal, and then we're going to do basically the same thing and then round it to money. So let's look at example one. So you have pizza, $10.99. You have two sodas at $1.98. So we're going to add the total, which is really a subtotal, right? So you're going to get $12.97. Now, we want to leave a 15% tip. So you're basically going to do it just like tax. We're going to take 15%, and 15% is the same thing as a 0.15. So what you're going to do is you're going to take $12.97 and you're going to multiply it times a 0.15, which is 15% of $12.97. So if you are at a restaurant like Primo's or something, you want to leave a 15% tip, you're going to leave $1.95. Now that is exactly 15%. Some people will round it to $2 to make it a lot easier, but 15% is $1.95. Let's look at example two. All right, we have some fried rice, chicken with broccoli. That's my favorite, beef lo mein, and 3 egg rolls. So we're going to get a subtotal. So we're going to add those all up on our calculator. We're going to get a subtotal of $22.74. Now the tax is 9.5%. So what do we need to do? We want to change it to a decimal. So 9.5% is the same thing as 0.95. I'm going to put my decimal point here. So we moved it over two to the left. So we're going to find 9.5% of 22.74. So we're going to find the tax first. So the tax, we're going to multiply that out. So 22.74 times 0.095 to get our tax, and our tax is $2.16. So I'm going to put that right here, $2.16. And let's go ahead and get a subtotal. So go ahead and add those two together and you should get $24.90. Now we're going to leave a 15% tip. When you go out to dinner, you need to leave a tip for their service. Again, the average tip is usually 15 to 20%, but for this example, we're going to use 15%, which is the same thing as a 0.15. So now you're going to take your subtotal, which is $24.90. So $24.90 times 15%. And the tip you're going to leave is $3.74. So that is exactly 15%. Most people will round to $4. Okay, so again, if you have any questions, please post those to the discussion board. So right now, what I'd like for you to do is I would like for you to do the following problems in your Math Ian. So example one, you have a pencil that's 17 cents. You're going to buy 5 of them. So obviously you're going to multiply it by 5. Then you're going to find 4.5% tax, add that to the cost, and then give me a total cost. Number 2, you have candy at 99 cents a box and you buy 25 boxes. Your tax on this one is 6%. Number 3, you're buying a surfboard for $399.99. You buy 2 of them and you have 4.5% tax. So what you may want to do is just pause the video I don't think we have any more. No. So I would like for you to do problems number 1, number 2, and number 3, and be ready to go over those in class. Again, if you have any questions, please post to the discussion board. So answer these 3 examples, and we'll see you next class. Have a great evening.